Humanity sent the alien scum one simple fucking message. Stay the fuck away from Earth, or we'll gut your whole goddamned race like fish. The Prilorian Galactic Empire, a vast alien civilization spanning countless conquered worlds, transmitted a chilling ultimatum to Earth. Emperor Novak, the vicious overlord of the Prilorians, spoke on every screen and speaker, demanding that humanity surrender unconditionally, or be completely annihilated. Earth's terrified citizens watched the broadcasts in stunned silence. Terry Parker, an ex-Special Forces commando who now worked as humanity's chief intergalactic diplomat, walked through the stark halls of the Prilorian flagship to deliver Earth's official response to Novak and his council of warlords and strategists. In the coldly lit chamber, Terry stood straight-backed before the sneering grey faces of the aliens, his eyes blazing as he spoke humanity's warning. Stay away from Earth or deeply regret it. Emperor Novak let out a barking alien laugh, his lipless slash of a mouth pulling back over jagged teeth. As he waved a clawed hand dismissively, he snapped out a command to his admirals in their snarling language, and Terry's translator implant rendered it as, "Prepare the invasion fleet immediately." As Terry strode quickly back to his shuttle, his gut twisted with the grim knowledge that his species had just effectively signed its own death warrant. No single planet could hope to stand against the might of the Prilorians. But the aliens had no idea that humanity had been urgently preparing for a confrontation like this, ever since the first signals from the stars had been detected decades ago. Sprawling underground networks of reinforced bunkers, advanced weapons labs, and massive caches of arms and defenses lay hidden beneath Earth's surface, all built in secret to help even the odds against a more powerful enemy. And as the first Prilorian warships popped into Earth's orbit in flashes of light, Terry knew with cold certainty that the very survival of the human species now depended on how well those preparations had been made. Every human on Earth would need to fight with everything they had, or watch their homeworld burn under alien guns. As the Prilorian warships materialized in flashes of energy in Earth's orbit, Terry's wrist communicator lit up. It was an encrypted transmission from Dr. Ethan Reeves, the lead scientist studying the alien technology. "Parker here. What have you got, Doc?" "Terry, I think I've found an exploitable flaw in the Prilorians' shield design. But to be sure, I need you to grab a physical sample of the alloy their ships are built from." "Easier said than done, Reeves." Terry glanced at the tactical displays showing the massive enemy fleet. "I'll see what I can do. Send me the tech specs." Terry called up an old squad mate, Marcus Lee. They'd saved each other's lives more times than he could count back in the SF. "Marcus, I'm putting together a critical op. You in?" "Hell yeah, brother, just like old times." Terry quickly assembled an elite four-man infiltration unit. Armed with Earth's most advanced stealth tech and weaponry, they shot toward the Prilorian fleet in a cloaked insertion shuttle. "Anyone else feel like this is a little too easy?" Terry muttered, eyeing the seemingly unguarded alien vessel they were approaching. He shook off the uneasy feeling. They had a job to do. Using the shuttle's umbilical, they boarded the Prilorian ship completely undetected. The team crept through the dimly lit alien corridors, the walls pulsing with strange energy conduits. Following the decoded ship schematics, they found the alloy storage bay. Terry and Marcus stood watch as the demo experts drilled out samples of the bizarre metallic compound. Suddenly alarm klaxons shrieked to life. Prilorian voices snarled over the intercom. "Shit, move, move, move," Terry barked. Plasma fire whizzed past them as they sprinted back to the shuttle. A bolt clipped Terry in the shoulder, and he stumbled. Marcus hauled him up, and they dove into the shuttle. The evac craft blasted away from the ship. Seconds later, the Prilorian vessel detonated in a blinding flash. The shockwave rocked the shuttle. "The hell? Did we trigger some kind of self-destruct?" Marcus asked. An icy realization gripped Terry. No, they blew it remotely. Those bastards let us take the bait. They knew we were coming all along. Terry clenched his fists, his mind racing. This was a fucking trap, and that means... He looked at Marcus, dread etched on his face. "There's a spy on Earth. The Prilorians are playing us. They're always a step ahead." Terry stormed into the high-security briefing room deep beneath the Pentagon, slamming his armored fist on the table. General Alexander Thompson, a bald, scarred man built like a tank, fixed Terry with a hard stare. "Report, Parker. What the hell happened up there?" "It was a setup, sir. The Prilorians let us take those samples. They blew their own ship to bits just to send Earth a message. There's got to be a mole in our operation feeding them intel." The general's face hardened. He punched a code into the room's comms panel. "I want a full lockdown on all personnel ASAP. No one goes in or out without my express authorization. Parker, you're heading up the spy hunt. Find the turncoat bastard." In the underground weapons lab, Dr. Reeves hunched over a magnified holodisplay, his eyes wide. He called up Terry immediately. "Parker, you seeing this? The atomic structure, the quantum harmonics. Oh my God, it's brilliant, horrific, but brilliant." "Cut the science lesson, Doc. Can we use it?" Yes, I can rig a resonance beam to turn their shields into one massive EMP feedback loop. It'll fry every Prilorian ship from the inside." "Then do it fast. I'll get you what you need." Terry assembled his inner circle: Marcus, comms expert Lilith Cade, and master hacker Zach Burrows. "All right, people, we're on bug hunt. Comb through every scrap of data. Any blip of suspicion, you tag it, go." Days blurred together in a haze of dead-end leads and fraying paranoia. Then, Zach found an encrypted data trail leading to the private server of one Dr. Isaac Nichols, a fringe physicist involved in some hush-hush government project. Terry and Marcus paid Nichols a visit at his off-grid lab. They found the wild-haired scientist elbow-deep in a tangle of alien-looking machinery. "Dr. Nichols, we need to talk." "Can't. Busy. Breakthrough imminent." Nichols didn't look up from his work. Terry grabbed the man by his lab coat. "I wasn't asking. Earth's got an alien mole, and right now you're suspect numero uno, so start talking." Nichols' eyes bugged with manic fervor. "You don't understand. My work, it's the key to everything. The Prilorians, they're not conquerors, they're—" A concussive blast ripped through the lab, throwing Terry and Marcus off their feet. Prilorian shock troops boiled into the smoke-choked room, plasma rifles blazing. Terry dragged Nichols behind an overturned lab bench as searing bolts scorched the air. Nichols clutched a small data drive like a talisman. His breathing was a ragged gurgle, his chest a charred ruin. "Nichols, stay with me." Terry pressed fruitlessly against the wound. "The truth, sir, it's all here." Nichols gasped, forcing the data drive into Terry's hand. "The Prilorians, they're not what you think." The light faded from Nichols' eyes. Plasma fire stitched the wall above Terry's head. He pocketed the drive and rolled to his feet, pulse pistol barking in his hand. Marcus laid down covering fire as they leapfrogged toward the exit. Terry's mind raced as they fought their way to a waiting evac shuttle. What secrets had Nichols died for? What the hell was really going on? The Prilorian attack intensified by the second. Terry knew only two things for certain. He needed to get that data drive to Reeves ASAP, and he was going to personally blast every last Prilorian invader out of the goddamn sky. The concussive blasts of plasma grenades shook dust loose from the cracked ceiling of the command center as Terry's fingers flew over the keyboard, jamming Nichols' data drive into the port. Glowing Prilorian text flashed across the screen, reams of data that could hold the keys to humanity's salvation or damnation. Marcus crouched by the sealed blast doors, pulse rifle trained on the molten edges as the aliens began burning through. "Whatever's on there, read fast," Marcus growled through gritted teeth. The staccato alien chatter of Prilorian voices echoed from the smoking hole in the door. Terry's eyes flickered over the scrolling intel, his brow furrowing as he absorbed the revelations, each more shocking than the last. The Prilorians were no monolithic hive, but a fractured squabbling empire, riven by internal strife and power struggles between rival warlords and factions, and one of those factions wanted no part of this invasion. "Holy shit," Terry breathed. "There's Prilorians who think invading Earth is a bad idea. Some of them want to fucking stand down." Marcus shot him an incredulous look. "You saying we tried to chat up some alien peaceniks, while they're storming our base. I'm saying this could be our shot to stop this war. Terry's mind raced, calculating possibilities and angles. The armored fist of a Prilorian punched through the weakened blast door, scrabbling for the lock mechanism. Terry snatched the data drive, but we need to get this intel out of here first. Marcus fired a burst through the breach, alien shrieks echoing from the far side. More gauntleted hands ripped at the edges of the door, peeling it open like a ration can. "Get to the shuttle bay," Marcus barked, slapping a new power cell into his rifle. "I'll cover you." Terry shook his head sharply. "We go together or not at all, on 3. The door buckled, wrenched off its rails from the far side. Terry and Marcus tensed, rifles snugged tight against their shoulders. 1, 2, 3. They opened fire as one, spraying the onrushing Prilorians with searing pulse bolts. Alien bodies crumpled and thrashed, blocking the path of those surging in behind them. Terry and Marcus charged through the gap, blasting a path through the smoke-choked halls. Bloodied but unbroken, they burst from the bunker's camouflaged access hatch into the battle-torn street. That's when they saw him, Emperor Novak, resplendent in his ornate exo-armor, flanked by a phalanx of royal guards. The alien warlord fixed Terry with a cruel sneer, leveling a glowing pulse cannon at his heart. "Did you really think you could defy the might of the Prilorian Empire and live?" Novak's voice was a grating hiss. Terry's grip tightened on his rifle, his finger caressing the trigger. He could put a bolt right through one of the bastard's beady eyes, but what then? Drop Novak and the Prilorians would burn Earth out of sheer vengeance. But if those files were right, if he could somehow reach the dissident Prilorian factions, turn them against Novak and sue for peace, it was a desperate gambit. But what choice did humanity have left? In that crystallized second, the fate of Earth hung in the balance and Terry had to make the call. Terry stood unflinching, locking eyes with the towering alien warlord. Novak's lipless mouth twisted into a sneer, his clawed finger tightening on the trigger of his pulse cannon. "Your pathetic species is doomed, human," Novak spat. "Surrender now and your deaths will be swift." Terry's mind raced, calculating his options. He couldn't outshoot Novak and his guards, but maybe he could outwit them. He took a breath and played his wild card. "I know about the dissent in your ranks, Novak. Not all Prilorians want this war." Novak's eyes narrowed. "You know nothing, human scum." "I know enough. Enough to challenge you to a duel one-on-one. Your virtual combat simulator. If I win, you arrange a meeting between me and the leader of the faction that opposes the invasion." A cruel laugh burst from Novak's throat. "And why should I indulge your suicidal whim?" Terry met the alien's gaze unflinchingly. "Because if you're half the warrior you claim to be, you won't pass up the chance to defeat humanity's champion in front of your troops. Unless you're afraid you'll lose." Novak snarled, his teeth bared. Then, to Terry's surprise, he lowered his weapon. "Very well, human, I accept your challenge. But know this, when I defeat you, your consciousness will be trapped in the simulation for eternity, a fate far worse than death." Terry nodded grimly. "Let's do this." Minutes later, Terry found himself strapped into the neural interface of the Prilorian virtual reality simulator. As the system hummed to life, the sterile chamber dissolved away, replaced by a nightmarish alien landscape. Twisted spires of obsidian clawed at a sickly green sky, and the ground beneath his feet was slick with viscous fluid. A guttural roar shook the air as a monstrous figure emerged from the shadows, Novak's avatar, a hulking brute bristling with spikes and wielding a crackling energy glaive. Terry glanced down to find his own avatar, armed with a sleek phase sword, its blade shimmering with blue light. "This is my world, human," Novak's distorted voice boomed. "Here I am a god." The alien warlord lunged, his glaive slashing down in a blinding arc. Terry parried, the force of the blow sending shockwaves up his arms. He danced back, his mind racing to adapt to the alien environment and the unfamiliar weapon in his hands. Novak pressed the attack, his glaive a blur of sizzling energy as he rained down blow after punishing blow. Terry gave ground, his sword flashing as he deflected each strike. He could feel his muscles burning, his reflexes straining to keep pace with the Prilorian's relentless assault. "Pathetic," Novak sneered, hammering Terry's guard. "Is this the best your species has to offer?" Terry gritted his teeth, refusing to be baited. He ducked a decapitating slash and rolled, coming up behind Novak. His sword lashed out, scoring a glancing hit across the alien's back. Novak whirled, his eyes blazing with rage and humiliation. "You'll pay for that, human!" The battle raged across the hellish landscape, a deadly dance of flashing blades and crashing energy. Terry felt his strength flagging, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Novak seemed inexhaustible, driven by a manic fury. Just as it seemed the alien was poised to deliver the killing blow, Terry glimpsed a flicker of an opening in Novak's defenses, a momentary slip in his guard. Seizing the chance, Terry lunged, his sword plunging into Novak's chest. The Prilorian staggered back, his avatar flickering and dissolving. The virtual world shattered, and Terry found himself back in the simulator chamber, gasping and drenched in sweat. Novak, his eyes wide with disbelief, slumped in his interface harness. "Impossible," he rasped. "Defeated by a human?" Terry climbed from the simulator, his legs trembling. He met Novak's gaze. "I've won, Novak. Now honor your word. Arrange the meeting." The Prilorian warlord glared at Terry for a long moment, then jerked his head in a curt nod. "It will be done." As Novak stomped from the chamber, Terry sagged against the simulator, his mind reeling. He'd bought Earth a chance, but at what cost? And who was this mysterious oracle he was to meet with? Terry shook off his unease. Those were questions for another time. For now he had to focus on the next step, the meeting that could change the course of the war and the fate of humanity itself. He couldn't shake the prickling sensation on the back of his neck, the feeling that unseen eyes were watching his every move. Little did Terry realize, but the true architect of the Prilorian invasion had been observing him all along, a shadowy puppet master pulling the strings from afar. And that hidden mastermind had plans for Terry, plans that would test his loyalties, his resolve, and his very humanity. Terry and Marcus crept through the tangled alien vegetation, pulses pounding as they approached the ancient temple. The stone structure loomed before them, its surface pitted and scarred from eons of exposure to the harsh elements of the uninhabited world. Vines as thick as a man's arm snaked up the crumbling walls, pulsing with bioluminescent veins. Marcus scanned the temple entrance with his rifle. "I don't like this, it's too quiet." Terry nodded, his jaw set. "Stay sharp." They slipped inside, boots echoing on stones slick with luminous alien moss. The air hung heavy and still, tinged with the acrid stench of decay. A faint, eerie light seemed to emanate from the very walls. In the heart of the temple they found him, the oracle, a hooded figure perched atop a throne of gnarled metal that seemed to grow from the stone itself. Terry and Marcus trained their weapons on the silent form. "Show yourself," Terry barked, his finger tense on the trigger. The figure reached up with pale hands, drawing back his hood. Terry recoiled in shock. Staring back at him was a human face, gaunt and lined with age, but unmistakable. "Dr. Koenig," Terry breathed. "But you vanished decades ago." Koenig smiled, a thin slash in his wasted face. "Yes, but as you see, I am very much alive. I've been waiting for you, Terry Parker." As Koenig spoke, he wove a tale of cosmic horror, of his work with a secret government project to contact alien life, of the terrifying truth he uncovered, that the Prilorians were mere pawns in a galactic game of conquest and annihilation, orchestrated by an ancient race called the Veln. "The invasion of Earth is just the beginning," Koenig rasped. "The Veln will not stop until they devour the very light of the stars." Terry's mind reeled, trying to process the enormity of the threat. How do we stop them? Koenig leaned forward, his eyes glittering. "I can give you the power to face them, but it comes at a price." He held out his hand. In his withered palm pulsed a writhing mass of black tendrils, shot through with veins of sickly green. A symbiote, Koenig whispered. Bond with it, and you will wield strength beyond imagining, but it will change you, in body and mind. Terry stared at the alien thing, revulsion and temptation warring within him. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. What was one man's soul against that? He reached out, his hand shaking, and closed his fingers around the symbiote. It surged up his arm in a flash of blinding agony. Terry screamed as he felt it burrowing beneath his skin, worming into his brain. When the pain subsided, he opened his eyes. The world had taken on a new clarity, a razor-edged vividness. He could feel power thrumming in his veins, an intoxicating rush of raw energy. But beneath it he felt something else. A gnawing hunger, a whisper in the darkest recesses of his mind, urging him to crush, to devour, to destroy. Terry clenched his fists, his eyes blazing with an otherworldly light. "Let's go, Marcus. We've got a war to win." As they strode from the temple, Terry's thoughts raced, even as the voice of the symbiote hissed and snarled in his skull. He had the power now to take on the Velen. But at what cost? How long could he resist the darkness that now lurked within him? He shook off the doubts. He had a mission, a duty to the galaxy. Whatever the price, he would pay it, no matter how much of himself he had to sacrifice along the way. Terry and Marcus plunged into the twisted, nightmarish realm of the umbral frontier, the heart of the Velen's domain. The landscape pulsed with an otherworldly malevolence, the very air seeming to writhe and shimmer with dark energy. Strange, cyclopean structures loomed in the distance, their angles and curves defying the laws of earthly geometry. As they navigated the treacherous terrain, Terry could feel the alien symbiote within him stirring, its power growing with each passing moment. It whispered in his mind, a seductive voice promising strength, urging him to embrace the darkness. Terry gritted his teeth, fighting to maintain control as they pressed deeper into the Velen's realm. Monstrous creatures lurked in the shadows, their forms a blasphemous fusion of flesh and technology. Terry and Marcus fought their way through the hordes, their weapons blazing, their skills pushed to the limit. Each encounter left them battered and bleeding, but they pushed on, driven by the knowledge that the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. As they delved further into the umbral frontier, they began to uncover the true nature of the Velen's plan. They found evidence of countless civilizations harvested, their psychic energy drained to fuel the Velen's twisted evolution. The Prilorians, they realized, were just one of many species to fall victim to the Velen's machinations. "My God," Marcus breathed, his face pale in the sickly light. "They're not just conquering, they're consuming." Terry nodded grimly, and they won't stop. Not until they've devoured the entire galaxy. Driven by a desperate need to stop the Velen, they infiltrated the central hive, a pulsating organic structure that seemed to defy the very fabric of reality. Inside, they found a vast chamber filled with countless pods, each one containing the desiccated remains of a harvested species. The sight was a horror beyond imagining, a testament to the Velen's insatiable hunger. At the center of the chamber, they confronted the Velen Queen, a monstrous otherworldly being that pulsed with malevolent energy. As they approached, Terry felt the symbiote within him surge with power, drawn to the Queen's dark essence like a moth to a flame. In that moment, he realized the terrible truth. The symbiote was not a tool to fight the Velen, but a part of them, a piece of their very being that they had used to manipulate him from the start. The Queen's voice echoed in his mind, a mocking, triumphant laugh. With a roar of defiance, Terry unleashed the full might of the symbiote, his body transforming into a monstrous, hulking form bristling with razor-sharp tendrils. He leapt at the Queen, engaging her in a cataclysmic battle that shook the very foundations of the hive. They traded blows that could shatter mountains, their forms a blur of slashing claws and lashing tentacles. Marcus fought at Terry's side, his weapons firing non-stop, his face a mask of grim determination. But even as they battled, Terry could feel the symbiote's influence growing stronger, its hunger threatening to consume him entirely. The Queen's voice whispered in his mind, urging him to surrender, to embrace the power of the Veln. With a bellow of anguish, Terry watched Marcus crumple to the writhing floor of the Veln hive, a gaping wound in his chest. The symbiote within Terry surged, an oily tide of rage and grief. He turned on the Veln Queen, his eyes blazing with unholy light. "You'll pay for that, you bitch," he snarled, his voice distorted by the symbiote's power. The Queen laughed, a sound like shattering glass. "Foolish human, you cannot defeat me, I am eternal." Terry didn't waste breath on a retort. He lunged, his body twisting into a nightmarish form, bristling with razor-edged tendrils. The Queen met his charge, her own form swelling into a towering monstrosity. They clashed in a maelstrom of slashing claws and lashing tentacles, their battle shaking the very foundations of the hive. Terry felt the symbiote's power coursing through him, a dark ecstasy that threatened to consume his very soul. With a final desperate surge, he pierced the Queen's defenses, his tendrils punching through her chitinous hide. She staggered back, ichor gushing from her wounds. You have won," she rasped, her voice fading. "But know this, human. We Veln are not what you think." As the Queen's life ebbed away, she wove a tale of sorrow and desperation. The Veln, she revealed, were not a species, but a hive mind, a collective consciousness that had endured for eons. Once they had been a peaceful race, but a cataclysm in their ancient past had forced them to evolve into the predatory beings they were now, consuming other races to survive. "We had no choice," the Queen whispered. "It was the only way." With her final breath, she presented Terry a choice. He could use the symbiote's power to eradicate the Veln utterly, or he could merge with the hive mind, becoming their new king and leading them to a new purpose. Terry hesitated, torn between his thirst for vengeance and his desire to find a better way. In the end, his humanity won out. He reached out with his mind, absorbing the Queen's essence, taking her place as the ruler of the Veln. But as he did so, he staggered under the weight of the Veln's collective memory. Countless eons of hunger, fear, and sorrow. The pain of every race they had consumed, every world they had ravaged, crashed over him in a tidal wave of agony. Gritting his teeth, Terry forced himself to endure. He would bear this burden for the sake of the galaxy. He would guide the Veln to a new path, one of coexistence rather than conquest. His first step was to return to the Prilorian Empire, where the fleet still battled in the skies over Earth. Manifesting in a swirl of shadow, Terry appeared before the astonished Prilorian leaders. "The war is over," he declared, his voice resonating with the power of the hive mind. "The Veln were the true enemy, and they have been defeated." He revealed the truth of the Veln's manipulations, the way they had pitted the Prilorians against humanity for their own ends. Faced with this revelation, the Prilorian factions had little choice but to agree to a truce. As the guns fell silent and the ships pulled back, Terry felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps there was a chance for peace after all. But even as the Prilorians began the long process of rebuilding, Terry sensed a new threat looming. The symbiote, now irrevocably bonded to his being, whispered of a greater destiny waiting beyond the stars. Terry looked out at the infinite expanse of space, feeling the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them. For the sake of Earth, the Prilorians, and every sentient species, he would fight. The true test, he knew, was yet to come, but he would be ready. The fate of the universe might just depend on it. The whispers of the symbiote grew to a deafening roar in Terry's mind, drowning out all other thoughts. He felt its pull, an inexorable tug that drew him to the farthest reaches of the cosmos, to a place where the very fabric of reality wore thin. Ancient star charts, etched into the Veln's collective memory, guided Terry's path. He followed the trail of legends, whispers of a power beyond imagining, the crucible of creation, an artifact said to hold the ability to reshape the universe itself. Terry's ship, a sleek vessel imbued with Veln technology, sliced through the void, propelled by the symbiote's insistent urgency. As he ventured deeper into uncharted space, The stars themselves seemed to warp and twist, their light bending in impossible angles. Strange ethereal beings flitted at the edges of Terry's vision, creatures that defied comprehension. They whispered to him in languages that no human tongue could pronounce, their words echoing in his mind long after they had faded from sight. The symbiote shielded Terry from the worst of the psychic onslaught, but even its power could not fully protect him from the mind-bending horrors that lurked in this realm beyond realms. As Terry navigated the ever-shifting labyrinth of warped space, he began to catch glimpses of other realities, fleeting visions that danced at the periphery of his consciousness. He saw worlds where he had made different choices, where the Prilorians had emerged triumphant and where Earth lay in ruins, a barren husk devoid of life. In one particularly vivid vision, Terry saw himself standing amidst the ruins of New York City. The Statue of Liberty toppled and broken at his feet. The sky above was a sickly, poisonous green, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. He watched as his alternate self, clad in the armor of a Prilorian warlord, surveyed the destruction with a cold, impassive gaze. The vision shifted, and Terry found himself in a vast subterranean chamber, its walls lined with pulsating organic pods. Each pod contained the withered husk of a human, their life essence drained away to fuel the Velen's insatiable hunger. Terry watched, helpless and horrified, as his alternate self strode through the chamber, his eyes gleaming with a predatory hunger. With a gasp, Terry wrenched himself free of the vision, his heart pounding in his chest. The symbiote writhed beneath his skin, its whispers growing more urgent, more demanding. "We're close," Terry muttered, his voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's engines. "I can feel it." As if in response to his words, a jagged rift appeared in the fabric of space before him, a pulsating wound in the void. Terry gritted his teeth and plunged his ship into the rift, the symbiote's power flaring to shield him from the chaotic energies that surged around him. For an eternity, or perhaps only a heartbeat, Terry fell through a kaleidoscope of fractured reality, his mind assaulted by a maelstrom of images and sensations. When he finally emerged on the other side, he found himself in a vast, empty expanse, a void beyond the very concept of space and time. And there, floating at the center of the emptiness, was the crucible of creation. It was a thing of impossible beauty, a construct of shimmering iridescent energy that pulsed with a power beyond human comprehension. Terry felt the symbiote surge within him, drawn to the crucible like a moth to a flame. With a thought, Terry propelled himself towards the artifact, his heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and dread. As he drew closer, he saw strange alien glyphs etched into the crucible's surface, their meaning tantalizingly just beyond his grasp. Terry reached out to touch the crucible, his fingers trembling with a mixture of awe and trepidation. As his flesh made contact with the artifact's surface, a jolt of pure, unfiltered knowledge surged through his mind, and in that instant, he understood. The crucible was not a tool of creation, but of destruction, a weapon forged by an ancient, forgotten race to erase the Velen from existence. It held the power to unmake reality itself, to wipe the slate clean and start anew. In that moment, Terry realized the true nature of the symbiote's plan. It had not guided him to the crucible to heal the scars of the Velen's reign, but to use its power to eradicate them from the very fabric of existence. Terry staggered back, his mind reeling with the implications of this revelation. The symbiote pulsed within him, urging him to take hold of the crucible, to unleash its power and reshape the universe in his image. But even as the temptation surged through him, Terry felt a flicker of doubt. The Velen had caused untold suffering, yes, but did that justify erasing them from existence? Was there another way, a path that did not require such a drastic, irreversible act? Terry stood at the precipice of destiny, the weight of the universe bearing down upon him. He knew that the choice he made in this moment would echo through eternity, shaping the course of countless lives. The symbiote writhed beneath his skin, its whispers growing more insistent, more demanding. Terry closed his eyes, his mind racing as he grappled with the impossible decision before him. In the end, there could be no turning back. Whatever choice he made, Terry knew that the consequences would be his to bear, for better or for worse. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. Terry's grip on the crucible tightened, the artifact's power surging through his veins like liquid fire. In that crystallized moment, the true scope of its potential unfurled before him, a vast tapestry of creation and destruction that stretched to the very edges of the cosmos. He saw the Velns rise and fall, the countless civilizations they had consumed in their insatiable hunger. He felt the weight of their collective suffering, a burden that threatened to crush his very soul. But amidst the darkness, a flicker of understanding sparked to life. The power to reshape the universe, to erase the Veln and all their crimes. It was a temptation that whispered seductively in his mind, promising an end to the cycle of pain and loss. Terry's jaw clenched, his eyes blazing with a newfound clarity. To wield the crucible's might, to play God with the fate of the galaxy, it would be to walk the same path as the Veln, to perpetuate their legacy of ruin. He knew then, with a certainty that resonated in his very bones, that there could be no easy answer, no quick fix to undo the damage of millennia. The only way forward was through understanding, through healing the wounds of the past one world at a time. Terry drew a shuddering breath, his decision made. He would merge with the crucible, becoming one with its infinite energy. In that union, he would sacrifice all that he was, his memories, his very identity, to become something greater, a force for renewal and rebirth. As he opened himself to the artifact's power, he felt it flood through him, reshaping his flesh into pure, shimmering energy. His mortal form dissolved, replaced by a being of light and potential, unbound by the limitations of space and time. With a thought, Terry propelled himself into the void, the crucible's essence pulsing in harmony with the very fabric of the universe. He raced across the light years, visiting the shattered worlds left in the Veln's wake. On each ravaged planet, he poured forth the crucible's restorative energy, coaxing life from barren soil, mending shattered ecosystems, and breathing hope into the hearts of the survivors. He walked among them, a shining avatar of possibility, guiding them as they rebuilt their civilizations from the rubble. In his presence, old hatreds faded, replaced by a shared determination to forge a brighter future. But even as Terry worked to heal the scars of the past, he could feel the crucible's power taking its toll. With each world he restored, each civilization he set back on the path to prosperity, he could feel his own essence diminishing, consumed by the artifact's insatiable energy. He knew his time was running out, that soon there would be nothing left of the man he had once been, and so he turned his thoughts to Earth, to the place where his journey had begun, and to the friend who had stood by his side through it all. In a flash of blinding light, Terry appeared before Marcus, his form flickering and ethereal. Marcus, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief, reached out a trembling hand, his fingers passing through Terry's luminous silhouette. "Terry, is that really you?" Terry smiled, his voice echoing with the wisdom of the ages. "It's me, Marcus, but not for much longer." As the two friends spoke, Terry shared his tale, the sacrifice he had made and the destiny he had embraced. He could see the grief and understanding warring in Marcus's eyes, the bitter realization of all that had been lost and all that had been gained. With a final sorrow-tinged smile, Terry placed his hand on Marcus's shoulder, a gesture of trust and farewell. "I need you to carry on, Marcus, to be the guardian this galaxy needs. Promise me." Marcus nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise, Terry, I won't let you down." As Terry's form began to fade, dissipating into motes of shimmering energy, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had given all that he had, all that he was, to ensure that the universe would never again fall into darkness. And as he merged with the cosmos, becoming one with the infinite expanse of stars and worlds, he knew that his sacrifice had not been in vain. That through the power of understanding and the strength of the human spirit, even the darkest of